BSG thought they could nerf one of my favourite routes within Escape from Tarkov, because yes, it definitely took a hit, but we're back with an even more optimised run so that we can make our money at the same rate. So with that underway, of course, we are talking about one of the most popular videos on my channel, which is the marked room bunker. And with early wipe out of the way, or at least early reset of 1.0, where most people have kind of got through some of the early levels, that sort of thing, and unlocked woods, of course, so that we can run it, we are heading over to the marked bunker. So for those of you wondering, that is the plane over there. So on our left is the plane, and in front of us is the big rock. I'm going to show you the actual pathing to get to the bunker. Over here is where you've got the RUAF kind of site that you can go to extract, and we've also got the old sawmill as well over there. So if we go literally just hug the mountain on the left over here, we're going to make our way to the marked bunker. Now the reason we're doing this is so we can farm up a ton of marked room keys, but this has been made even more overpowered because BSG added in a little tweak to what has happened with our hideout items. So hideout items are of course not all required to be found in raid, but because I'm a little devious piece of garbage, I've decided that I will make the run even more profitable and guarantee that this is probably the most money you will make in your raids, regardless of whatever map you're doing. This one singular place to visit on woods will make you more money than every single map, even if you have all of the keys, etc. It is just absolutely insane. So let's head on over. We find this little rock over here. You have the village over there. And then as we're coming up to this rock, you have to be a little bit careful because there can be scavs. I've not seen as many PMCs come to the bunker itself recently, but we go down into the bunker over here and we're making our way. Obviously, first thing that we're going to do is to check for keys, which will spawn over here. Now, as you can see, we've got a VHS, we have some ammo, and this is what I mean by the nerf to, of course, the marked room itself. So, or not the marked room, but it's a marked bunker. But we found quite a few dorms keys that were actually in here. The best thing to do is to turn off, and oh, surprise, surprise, there goes our marked key. This wasn't even supposed to be the marked key. I've actually got footage of the previous raid, which was a dorms marked key that I managed to get. But in this one, we got the check 13 marked key. Wow, I guess we can't complain at all. And the raid before that, we got something that I wanted to mention as well in this video. But without further ado, obviously this circle has like a ton of different spawns for keys. So be careful when you're going around here because a lot of people probably miss the actual keys themselves. So the best thing I can kind of say to you guys is to make sure that you are basically checking like everywhere in this circle. There's spawns over in this corner, there's one at the back over here, there's one in this kind of side corner over here, and we've also got like one in the rubble pile here, and like there's quite a few, like one in the middle as well that you need to check. If you're not really sure, what you can do is you can come onto the floor, and typically the keys will be like lifted off the ground. Sometimes they can be like blended into the rubble, but basically what you're after is making sure that you are essentially just checking absolutely everywhere inside of the circle. Many people probably miss keys that are 100% there, and maybe even potentially missing the marked room key. I've done it myself multiple times where I kind of go off and then I check back for one last check at the end and I'm like, oh damn, there's a marked room key on the floor. So don't do that. But the other thing, say we didn't get the check 13 key, which is worth about 20 million rubles right now, so you know, quids in, and we made 40 million rubles after the flea commission from a dorms marked key that we got in the previous raid. But we've also got ourselves a ton of tech spawns. Now, just these pressure gauges we can take because they sell to traders very, very highly. But the main thing is that you find a ton of military power filters which are in here. And not only that, we're also finding thermite. That thermite was, or at least I sold one yesterday for 400k. So not only are we getting, you know, marked room keys, which are going to give you, say you get 1 in every 10 woods raids that you're doing, and say that key is on average worth about 25 million. If you get the shared bedroom marked room key, it's like 2 million, but all of the other marked room keys are like bare minimum 20 million rubles. The dorms marked room key is about 50 million rubles, and the RBBK is about 25 to 30 million rubles. You know, you've got lots of keys that are worth a lot of money, and so that's the reason why we come down to this bunker. But what I was going to do before getting all of that is, of course, talk about the military power filters. They spawn all over inside of here. It's like 1 every 2. Like, probably on average, it's 1 every 2. They currently sell for 2.5 million rubles. Yes, 2.5 million rubles just for the military power filters right now, because everyone and their dog is trying to get solar power so that they can get to terminal, which of course requires like 10 military power filters. There's also the Bitcoin farm, which requires power filters or something like that. There's tons of just hideout items that are required for those. And of course, not only that, we're also getting a ton of the hideout items required in here too. So things like hoses, we've got a ton of toolbox spawns, which obviously you can get filament lamps, you can get bolts, you can get all sorts of stuff. So it's a really good farm just for that. You have a weapon box that spawns in here. In this room over here, we also have an intel folder spawn and just general like docks and SSDs, hard drives, that sort of thing that spawn on the table. We didn't in this one, but yeah, that's not an issue. And then you've obviously got a duffel bag that spawns on the chair. It's just not there in this raid. You've got some shelves that you can look at, or cabinets that you can look at. You've also got some boxes that you can check, technical supply crate. In this room, we've also got more tech items. There you go. It's an SSD. Chuck that in the docks case. And then over here, we've got some spawns for tech items. So you can find, you know, thermite over here in the corner. And there's another tech spawn down here. And there's also one to the side of this duffel. So yeah, you can check these if you want to. Typically, I don't, because, you know, if I don't get anything good, I'll just try and get out of the raid. In this room, however, there's also dock spawns. So SSDs, intel folders, manuals, that sort of thing that spawn on the floor. As well as over like here, basically, like to the left, just in front of the doorway, and then in here as well. So you can see there's the diary, so anything could spawn docks wise in there. We've got a rare spawn to the right of this duffel bag on this stretcher, so it's a chainlet. I'm not going to bother taking that, but that's the reason why this room is literally so cracked. Not only just because of the loot, but also like the general assorted loot that's lying around, you know, alkali cleaner, there you go. In here, there's also a dock spawn as well to the left of this bucket, and you can also get nades as well. And then over here, we've got another rare spawn, so it's a slim diary. In the bucket, you've got a rare spawn, and actually where the duffel bag is, sometimes there's a rare spawn on top of the duffel bag, or if the duffel bag doesn't spawn, it's on the bed, like the mattress / duvet thing that's there. And then we basically drop these in here. So obviously we're talking about this route. So say you don't get anything good, you don't get a power filter, you don't get a marked room key. What do we do to speed up the process? Because obviously they've added extra items into the room that mean that you don't necessarily always get anything great, because in the loot cycle of the circle, there didn't used to be that many spawns of other items. So it was basically always keys that spawned in there. You know, we saw that there was a VHS tape and there was an ammo in there, which obviously is not ideal for when we're trying to farm marked room keys and everything like that, because it takes up a spot of keys that could potentially spawn in there. So in terms of like speeding up the process, because before we didn't really, you know, I was just focused on the actual room itself and farming as many marked keys as we could in the previous videos. So, but one thing that you can do, which is highly effective, is that rather than transiting, what I always do is go and check the car extract. Bringing in the roubles to just car extract, it saves you so much time on woods. And even if the car extract doesn't even spawn, which for me, it seems like it's more often there than it isn't there. So you can just come over here and you can actually check it straight away. So you can see the car isn't actually there in this raid. It spawns just over here behind this little thing, so you would have seen it from here. So as soon as I don't see that it's there, I basically turn around and we head out of the raid. But this is a great way to get out of your raids very, very quickly. I know some people will just do a little Alt F4 bug as soon as they've realized there's nothing valuable in the bunker, which is, I don't like the fact that it's in the game and I don't use it. But that is also a solution that some people have when there's nothing in the bunker worth extracting with. So they just go into the bunker, check it. If there's anything there, they'll just Alt F4. As long as it's a local raid, like you're not actually platooned up or squadded up with anyone else in your raid, because that will constantly make it a BSG server. But also another quick way is to use the BTR, which spawns over by the village over here, to be able to extract quicker. Since we spawned over this side of the map, we do have to go to outskirts, which I am obviously going to do because we got the check 13 key, but that's also something to note. Partisan does spawn around here. Now, what you'll find is typically when you come up, he'll have laid traps like outside the entrance to the bunker, and usually himself, he'll be up here, like to these rocks. So the bunker's down here, by the way. So when we go down here, you'll basically see him up like over this side. He's sometimes to the right of this side. He can, on very, very rare occasions, be to the right over here, but for the most part, he is up by this rock over here. So the best thing to do against Partisan is throw a nade as soon as you see basically the traps, the tripwires down, because then he voice lines and you know exactly where he is, and then you can just run and get into a good position. And usually he'll have kind of like done some weird ass movement, and then he ends up like not being particularly that aware of you, so that helps out with taking out Partisan. I've not really ever gotten taken out by Partisan coming out of the bunker, so yeah, I thought I'd mention it anyway for you guys. But moving forward from there, obviously you just go ahead and extract. I'll join you when I've made my way to the extract. Unfortunately, the car extract didn't spawn there, which basically sped up our efficient process a lot, which I wasn't really using before because I was a bot. I'd never really thought about it. But yeah, we're basically farming straight to the bunker and then extracting straight away, because we will have got the loot XP enough so that it's not a run through anyway, so you don't have to lose your stats. So, obviously, one thing to mention is to bring in the ZB14 key. I actually haven't, because I was an idiot and forgot to add it into my case. But obviously, with the ZB14, we can extract here rather than having to go to outskirts. So that saves us time, which is the key thing. But it is worth to check in here, even if you didn't have the key, just because there can be some decent spawns in here anyway. And then, obviously, if you haven't got the key or you forgot it like me, you have to run to outskirts, which is past the scav hut over there. So, safest way to do that is just to run to the right-hand side. Don't go too far right because there's mines. Obviously, you don't want to get your legs blown off. That would be a very bad day. But another thing to mention is obviously bringing in all of your stims that are going to allow you to basically have infinite run stam. So I typically prop a Meldonin and then an SJ6. We basically never have any issues with you know, having to stop to constantly recharge our stam or anything like that. It really helps out a huge ton. And as you can see, we can run for what seems like forever. And it's just going to save us a lot of time when you do actually have to run, which isn't actually that often because of the car extract and the BTR anyway. So just bring in your stims, SJ6, Meldonin, or, you know, you can use Meldonin, Trimidor, whatever that you want to use to gain a bit of stam. And then we're at the extract now. I'll show you how much we actually made from the raid as well, from that one key. And also the fact that literally the directly one before this raid, we got a Dorms key. So yes, it is 100% still very powerful to find keys. It's just not as amazingly overpowered as it used to be, but it's still overpowered. And this is genuinely the best run that you can do to make money, especially considering that a lot of that money is going to be in a huge bulk, which you can use, as well as getting all your hideout items as well to upgrade for yourself. So say you need power filters, you're going to be able to farm them really over the top here. Like sometimes I find 2 in a raid, sometimes I've found 3 in a raid, sometimes I find none like this one, and a lot of the times I find 1. So that's kind of how the power filters work. It is just very good for a general farm, and especially considering the rest of the loot on woods is not particularly that great unless you go for ammo. But yeah, I don't really add in any other stops on this route because we simply, like, they're just not going to yield as much money as the time that we're investing in to go into the places on woods. So let's go ahead and check the check 13 key. How much is it actually selling for? So if we go over 10 out of 10, 18.5 million rubles right there. So literally an 18.5 million ruble raid. And then the rest of the mark keys that I've actually got on me. So we have another check 13. We've got a dorms key here, so it's easier if I put marked. As you can see, found in raid. This was found at the bunker. I sold the previous raids one, which is why we're at 56 million. I found another dorms in there as well, which I'd already sold, which is how I was able to afford the thick cases. And then I also found an RBBK key in there as well, but I ended up just using that because I was just going to turn it into a dorms key because at the moment I'm searching quite hard to be able to get the RFID blank key cards at the moment, and reserve is supposedly the best way. I haven't found a single one out of opening about 5 marked rooms on reserve, so you know, that's fun. But yeah, that is generally what I would do if I needed money, and that's what I do if I need money. I just run the woods bunker. It's super quick, super efficient, and with adding in the car extract, adding in the BTR, and also bringing as many of those stims that are going to boost up your speed, or at least endurance and strength, to save you some weight as well as get around the map a lot quicker without having to stop. It just makes it infinitely fast. And of course, if you don't get anything, people are going to just Alt F4. It 100% works, and it is very frustrating because the uses of the keys that you get from here, basically everyone's Alt F4ing out of the raids when they don't get anything good, and it's really annoying because it inflates the price of the keys to the point where nobody makes money off of actually opening up marked room keys. So yeah, in all essence, don't actually open marked room keys unless you want to open ones that you get for free. Don't buy them. They will lose you money pretty much every single time unless it's the shared bedroom marked key, or you get extremely lucky running all 3 of the reserve keys down to 1 out of 10 uses, and then transferring it into a dorms key, selling that, and then yeah, hopefully the loot that you got is worth enough to make up for the fact that you spent probably 70 million rubles on being able to buy all of the reserve keys, and a dorms only goes for 40 million. So hopefully you make 30 million back from 9 raids or 27 raids in total of marked rooms. So yeah, make that one out. But either way, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.